So we talked before about the different types, and this is a 2-kilometer long spacecraft carrier, and it's like streamlined to a degree. And so in one of the big design review meetings, one of the managers said, "Wait a minute, Bill, it's a vacuum out there. You don't have to make it pointed. You don't have to have atmosphere to go working through." And so I said, well, that's true. But the electromagnetic protection system, which we still are not sure how are going to work, may or may not be capable of handling all of the different types of vehicles or weapons that could be being used on us. And also, under certain conditions, we actually can get into the planet's atmosphere and operate. So anyway, we got around that one. Now, if you can picture here, this area down in here, I'm going to switch these, and you're going to see the lower part of the hull. And what you see there is the different classes of attack and fighter aircraft returning to the mothership or the spacecraft carrier, and with a vacuum-controlled entry sections. Actually, they would designed to fold down so that you're already in support of making inside landing. Nobody actually flies in these squadrons and controlling any of the vehicles. It's all automatic. So you're not going to be hitting the walls or any of this kind of thing. But very quickly you can open these hatches on the side. The hatch then becomes sort of a platform to possibly land on if you're too low. And this answers the question of how do we handle the large spaces aboard the ships that are going to be operating out in the missions. So what we had done then was using the same type of design concepts. We looked at the Marines missions. We looked at the communication missions. We actually came up with virtually hundreds then of missions and submissions that we then in the tank made recommendations back to the Navy themselves. And one admiral, when he saw that first illustration, he made the statement that just the shape of that's going to scare them away. They'll turn around and go back because it is a pretty hot configuration. Some of the others are not as good, and actually some of them are rectangular, depending on what the mission is required to accomplish. Did get hired by General Dynamics for a Navy program. And this program was to locate German submarines, anti-submarine warfare program. And what's interesting about this is that the Navy selected the Lockheed P-3 patrol bombers to be the air vehicles to locate German ships and submarines. This is the Cold War now. And so there was roughly 15 other NATO countries who were using the same aircraft, the same electronics, the same sensing systems, and the communication system. All of it engineered and designed in U.S. And so, like, United States had 120 of these, and the NATO countries had like another 60 of them, all out looking for German submarines. But that's not quite the numbers. It's more like we had 2,000 of these, and NATO had another 1,000 of these. Not quite that high. And remember, there were only 11 Soviet submarines operating at that time. There were many of them that were in training operations, but they weren't tactical. And so here we got 2,800 P-3 aircraft flying all around the planet 24 hours a day looking for submarines. Well, gee whiz, that's not exactly what we were doing either. And there's a title to the program, which is the mission ASW, Anti-Submarine Warfare. But there's also one which is ASUW. And so the U is for unidentified extraterrestrials. And so this was the second largest amount of military money allocated for a program on the planet. It's peacetime, but it's sort of a war condition. And we have all of these airplanes out, and it became necessary for a group, which I then was manager of, working for Data Graphics, which is a subsidiary of General Dynamics. And later on, I worked for the corporate office and the red team at the corporate level. And when we look at the size of this program, the number of personnel that have to be trained to fly these aircraft, the upgrading continually of the sensing systems, the underwater systems, of the satellite system programs that were required to be on board these aircraft. It's absolutely unreal. What we were really doing was looking for extraterrestrial vehicles in the ocean and in the large lakes and their bases on the bottom of the ocean. People don't realize how much money, how much time, and how many people have to be involved in these programs. And what are you doing? You're looking for extraterrestrials. Do you realize what we're saying? I mean, you're looking for extraterrestrial vehicles and bases. Your Navy is.